Jai Vishnu Paramahansa Karya Sri Srimad Swami Maharaj Shiva Prabhupada Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Acharya Siddhari Dastakur Ki Jai Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Krishna Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Shri Maya Punavadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Balaram Subhadrati Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanand All glories to the Assembly All glories to the Assembly All glories to the Assembly All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Guru. Om Jnana Timirandasya Galandana Shalakaya Chakshurunditam Vinatasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Minaputale Swayam Bhupakadamayam Dadati Svapadanvitam Mukam Garoti Vacharam Pangruman Haite Girim Yatri Patamaham Vande Sri Gurun Dinatari Divya Drandaranya Kalpadrumadha Sri Madratnagat Simhasanashto Sri Madhradha Sri Govinda Devo Krishtali B. Savior Manos Marami Sri Krishnam Radhikam Cheva Lalitam Javisakikam Sakivir Anvitam Nityam Pranamami Muhur Om Hrim Sham Gram Hiram Mahavishnam Jalantam Sattvam Kam Srinam Vishanam Tatram Richamacham Namamyaham Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Nigamakapataro Kalikampalam Sukhamukaram Rita Drava Samhitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Rasika Vipakaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayam Hiraya Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 23, verse 52. Brahman,
Brahman
Duhitribhis,
Yam
Tuvyam,
Vimtya
Daya,
Pataya Sama
Kaschit,
Yan Me
Shokya,
Shokaya Vai
Pravrajite,
Varam
Brahman Duhitribhis Tuvyam,
Brahman Rohitya Sabya
Vimrikya Pataya Sama,
Vimtya Pataya Sama
Kaschit Shan Me Vishokaya,
Kashyane Vishokaya
Rajite Vanam,
Vai Prajite Mana
Brahmando Hitrivistubhyam
Brahmando Hitrivisatyam
Vidyapatayasama
Vimrityapataya Samaha
Vidyame Vishukaya
Kashyane Vishokaya Vai Prajite Mana
Brahmando Hitrivistubhyam
Brahmando Hitrivisatyam
Vidyapatayasama
Vimrityapataya Samaha
Vidyame Vishukaya
Kashyane Vishokaya
Pravrajite Vanam
Vai Prajite Mana
Brahmando Hitrivistubhyam
Brahmando Hitrivisatyam Vimrityapataya Samaha Kashyane Vishokaya प्रयेषाव्राजिते मनः
Mataji.
ब्रह्मन्वेत्तिविश्वव्याम् बिम्बृङ्ग्यावतया कस्य ज्ञानमशोकाय परिवर्तते
Brahman,
Brahman,
my dear Brahman,
my dear Brahmana,
Duhitribi,
Duhitrivi,
by the daughters
my daughter,
themselves,
themselves,
Tubhyam,
to him,
for you,
for you,
Vimbragya,
Vimbragya,
to be found,
to be found,
to
be found out,
Pataya,
Pataya,
husbands,
husband,
Uma, Sama,
Sama,
suitable,
suitable,
Kaschit,
Kashif,
someone,
someone,
Shya,
Shah,
there should be,
there should be,
may, mine,
my,
Vishaya,
Vishnu,
for solace,
for solace,
Vai,
Vai,
when you, Pravachite,
Pravraj,
departed,
departed,
Vanam,
Vanam,
to the forest.
to the forest.
Translation. My dear Brahmana, as far as your daughters are concerned, they will find their own suitable husbands and go away to their respective homes. But who will give me solace after your departure as a sannyasi? Report. It is said that the father himself becomes the son in another form. The father and son are therefore considered to be non-different. A widow who has her son is actually not a widow because she has the representative of her husband. Similarly, Devahuti is indirectly asking Kadama to have a representative so that in his absence, she might be relieved of the anxieties by a suitable son. A householder is not expected to remain at home for all his days. After getting his sons and daughters married, a householder can retire from household life, having his wife in charge of the grown-up sons. That is the social convention of the Vedic system. Devahuti indirectly asking that in his absence from home there be at least one male child to give her relief from her anxiety. This relief means spiritual instruction. Relief does not mean material comforts. Material comforts will end with the end of the body, but spiritual instructions will not end. It will go on with the spirit soul. Instructions in spiritual advancement is necessary, but without having a worthy son, how could Devahuti advance in spiritual knowledge? It is the duty of the husband to liquidate his debt to his wife. The wife gives her sincere service to the husband, and he becomes indebted to her because one cannot accept service from his subordinate without giving him something in exchange. The spiritual master cannot accept service from a disciple without awarding him spiritual instruction. That is the reciprocation of love and duty. Thus, Devahuti reminds her husband, Kadama Muni, that she has rendered him faithful service, even considering the situation on the basis of liquidating his debt toward his wife. He must give a male child before he leaves. Indirectly, Devahuti requests her husband to remain at home a few more days, or at least until a male child is born. Hare Krishna. Sorry? Me, Gaura Mandala Bhumi, Das, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, preaching in Indonesia for the last nearly 45 years. That's enough, I think. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you. Krishna. Okay. So the point of this verse is that Devahuti requires protection by her son, who has at that point not manifested yet. In the Vedic culture, it is said Komaram Rakshati Pita, that in her childhood, the woman is protected by her father. And then Yovanam Bharya Rakshati, and when he is a youth, she is protected by her husband. And then Jara Rakshati Putra, in her old age, she is protected by her grown-up son. Yeah. Stri Swatantriyam na Vivajayat, that the women should not be given independence. This is the Vedic culture. Even materially speaking, a man is able to protect himself, but a woman not able to protect herself. So therefore, she requires protection at every stage of her life. So Devahuti was married to Kadama Muni and had given her 7 daughters, and Kadama Muni was thinking to retire from family life and go to the forest. So Devahuti is saying, just a minute, what's going to happen to me? Who's going to protect me? Because up to that point, you have not given me a son. She's requesting a son, actually, for her protection. And not just material protection, as Srila Prabhupada points out, that the real protection is spiritual instructions, Krishna consciousness. And this is the real protection, because simply material protection, for example, money and house and all kind of facility, this is not going to help us, because at the end we have to leave our body, and all these material things which we have accumulated during our lifetime, we have to leave this behind. Yeah. So what is important is Krishna consciousness, because that will be carried on even in the next life, as Krishna has explained in Bhagavad Gita, ne abhikrama na shosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatopaya. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and even a little advancement made can save one from the most dangerous type of fear. So the most dangerous type of fear means having taken this human body to not practice Krishna consciousness and resulting in being born as an animal. So Krishna consciousness guarantees at least a human birth in the next lifetime. So Devahuti was requesting Kadama Muni to stay around for some time and give her a son. And so the son could protect her and also give her spiritual instructions. So this son would be Kapila, and he would give spiritual instructions to Devahuti, which are also recorded in this chapter, in this canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kapila's instruction to Devahuti. Here it mentions that regarding the debt of the husband to the wife. Hare Krishna. The debt of the husband to the wife. If you accept service, if you accept facilities from somebody, then you are acquiring a debt. You have to pay back. The Sanskrit word for debt is rina. Yeah. We have many debts, even though we are not remembering. There's a verse which explains that Devapta, Bhutapta, Rinam, Pitrinam, Nakin Karo, Nayamarni Charajan, Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Saranyam Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam. If you render devotional service to Mukunda, Krishna, then you no longer have any debt, yeah, to the devas, yeah, to the Pitri, the ancestors, yeah, to ordinary people, to the king. So by totally surrendering to Krishna, one can become absolved of all of these debts. So anyway, this particular point that Prabhupada is explaining in the report, that the husband actually has a debt to his wife because she renders service to him all these years, cooking and cleaning and serving and so many things. And if he gives his wife a son, then the son can look after her after the husband will retire. In the Vedic culture, that the husband would go to the forest. Here this word is vana. This word vana here we can understand meaning Vrindavana, going to a holy place, retiring to a holy place and performing devotional service, tapasya, to become freed from material attachments. So then the wife would be with her grown-up son, who look after her until the end of her life. This was the system. It's a very, very nice Vedic system. Of course, nowadays people are no longer following this system. At least in the Western countries, the the elderly people, their children no longer like to look after them. They just put them in a nursing home. And the nursing home, they just fill them up with drugs so they don't make a disturbance. So it's very shameful. And at the end of their life, the elderly people in the Western countries, their situation is not very comfortable, and there's no practically possibility for their spiritual life. Yeah. At least to some extent in India, and also in Indonesia as well. There's very few nursing homes for elderly people. Usually the elderly people stay with their family members up to the end of their life. My wife's mother was with us until the end of her life. And she was very fortunate because she had one grandson whose name was Ramachandra. It's a favorite grandson. She was always all day saying, Rama, you come here. Rama, have you had your lunch yet? Rama, Rama. She was always saying like this. And even my wife's mother is a Muslim. My wife is from a Muslim family. Anyways, even at the end of her life, she was calling out Rama, Rama. When she was conscious, she would call out Rama. So anyone, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, Antakale chamameva smaran mokthakalevaram ya prayati chamatvavam yatyas yat atra samshaya. Anyone who at the end of their life remembers Krishna, then they will attain Krishna's nature. Of this there is no doubt. So my wife's mother left her body calling the name of Rama. Her intention wasn't Lord Rama, but it's the same. It comes to the same thing. Even Prabhupada said the Muslims have this word haram. Haram means forbidden. So even if they say haram, haram in Sanskrit means oh Lord Rama. So they get the benefit for this. Yeah. The name of Krishna has such power. Even if somebody calls out Krishna's name without the intention, yeah, of calling Krishna's name, just accidentally or jokingly, still they get the benefit of chanting Krishna's holy name, especially at the time of death. Yeah. So we have a debt to our parents also. We should look after them to the extent possible. And at the end of their life, and they looked after us so much when we were young, and now they've become elderly and not able to do so much. We should look after them and try to make arrangements so they can remember Krishna. Yeah. So anyway, this is Devahuti's request, and actually a reasonable request. And Gaura Muni will explain to Devahuti. Actually, you're already expecting a child, and he will look after you and instruct you. And Kapila is also an incarnation of Krishna, so she will be very much benefited by hearing the spiritual instructions given to her by her son. And we'll hear about this in the coming verses and coming chapters from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is, and also another important point which Prabhupada makes here at the end of the purport is that the spiritual master is accepting service from his disciple. Therefore, he has a duty to give spiritual instruction to the disciple, either giving directly spiritual instruction or making some arrangement. Like Srila Prabhupada, most of us did not have a chance to get very much spiritual instruction directly from Srila Prabhupada. But Srila Prabhupada left his instructions behind in the form of his books. So he said, if you just read my books, so we should every day read Srila Prabhupada's books or hear lectures on Srila Prabhupada's books on a daily basis. Otherwise, if we neglect to hear, then we forget. And if we forget, then we'll fall down from Krishna consciousness. So we should make an endeavor. And the classes, morning and evening classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is a very important part of our service to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada in the very beginning in the United States, in New York, and he wrote that piece of paper and put it up on the wall. Those days in the beginning, the devotees they weren't aware of the four regulated principles in the beginning. So Prabhupada wrote this on a piece of paper and put it up on the wall. But the first thing he wrote was, all initiated devotees must attend morning and evening class. They must attend the lectures in the morning and evening. Morning means Bhagavatam and the evening is Bhagavad Gita. Even before he wrote the four regulated principles, he put. So very significant. I feel this is very significant, and he wanted the devotees to hear on a daily basis the Shastras. So the temple should make this arrangement, and this is going on the internet. Yeah, so those devotees who are far from here, they can also hear. We did this also in Indonesia because our temple outside Jakarta is 81 kilometers from the city, and many people have trouble coming because there's a traffic jam. This is our temple president, Prabhu Narottam Haribol, temple president of Radha Govinda Temple near the city of Jakarta in the mountains. So we made Radha Govinda TV. So we have the same thing, so that the people who are in a distant place, who cannot come to the temple, they can see that through the internet. So we can use these technological facilities in Krishna's service. So I'm very happy to come here. The last time I came to Bangalore some years ago, this temple was not yet constructed. Now it's here, and I understand it's going to go up here. So this is wonderful. Bangalore is it's a very big and important city. Many pious people are living here. And I can see you're serving the deities, Jagannath, Balarama, Subhadra, Gornitai. You also have Radha Krishna also. Huh?
Gaura Mandala Bhumi.
It's an interesting name. Yeah. Okay, I feel very fortunate I could come here and have darshan and have the association of nice devotees here. And we have our two devotees from Indonesia who are with me, Prabhu Narottam and Prabhu Subudhi Nimai, but Subudhi also from Indonesia. We're just here for some days. Thank you very much for your association. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Like to hear inspiration from Srila Prabhupada.
Well, Srila Prabhupada was coming to Melbourne, and the devotees had a double-decker bus, and all were going to go to the airport to greet Srila Prabhupada on his arrival. And the bus was parked out the back of the temple. Somehow I walked out the front gate of the temple and a taxi pulled up. It was Prabhupada. Apparently the flight had come early, so there was no one to meet Prabhupada at the airport. So he took a taxi and Prabhupada got out of the taxi. I offered dandavats. I put my head on Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada went inside. I ran out the back and told the devotees Prabhupada is here. So everyone got off the bus and came in. There was a kirtan and Prabhupada sat on the asasan and spoke some few words, and then he went upstairs to his room. Then Prabhupada's servant came down and told me and said, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you. So I was thinking, what have I done wrong? So I was a new devotee. I'd only been in the temple 3 months. There was something wrong with Prabhupada's dictaphone. They came to know I knew something about electrical things, so I fixed it for him. Another thing I just remembered that every day Prabhupada used to take his massage. And at that time, he took his massage in the backyard of the temple. And there was one tree growing up the wall of the temple. The temple was 2 stories. So this tree was a very thin tree. I don't know if we have it in India. It's called a rust tree. It's a very thin tree with small leaves. So every day Prabhupada was in the daytime, when it was sunny, he would come out and they would put a mat and Prabhupada would take his massage in the backyard of the temple near this rust tree. So Prabhupada, at one point he said, this tree was previously the owner of this house in his previous lifetime. It's very interesting. So, you get very attached to the place we live and everything we've arranged very nicely, but it doesn't guarantee that next lifetime will be a human being. And this person had done a lot of sinful activities, and so he'd taken birth as a tree in his house, in his former house. It is quite possible. And Prabhupada, he was there in Melbourne for some days and gave some lectures, and then he went up to Sydney, which is the other big city. In Australia, there are only 2 very big cities. One is Melbourne and one is Sydney. each of these cities got about 5 or 6 million people. And, Prabhupada visited on a number of occasions and gave lectures, and also met some important people. Met Archbishop and met one scientist also. Yeah. So we would go on a morning walk with Prabhupada in the botanical gardens, and I got the chance to go on a morning walk in the botanical gardens in Melbourne, and Prabhupada would go on a morning walk, and normally he would just chant japa, but sometimes he would speak some things. And that morning he spoke. During his previous ashram, he was doing some business, and he took one building for the factory to make the medicines. And that time people were advising him, don't take this building because there's some ghost, some bhoot in this building. So Prabhupada, he just went into the building and chanted japa, and the ghosts have gone away. So he explained to us that actually ghosts and they cannot bear the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. As soon as Krishna's name will come, then all inauspicious things like ghosts and so on, jinn and all of this, it says in the Bhagavad Gita also, Sane Rishikesha Prabha Prakirtya, that verse in the 11th chapter. It says that whenever Krishna's name is heard, then all of the saintly persons become happy, and all of the inauspicious things just go away. The Prabhupada was fully confident. He just went in this building and chanted japa, and then all of the ghosts went away. He told us that on the morning walk. Anyway, I was walking along because Prabhupada was speaking. I was trying to listen, so we always should keep close to Prabhupada because he didn't speak very loud. And I stepped on the back of Prabhupada's sandals. So then he turned around and looked at me and said, don't come too close. So I realized what he meant was don't ever be too familiar with your spiritual master. Not just physically close, but don't be too familiar. Yeah. And later on, Prabhupada came to know that I could speak Indonesian language, so he said I should translate his books into Indonesian language. I went to Indonesia. That's like nearly 45 years ago. They'd been there for most of my life on Prabhupada's instructions. Hare Krishna. We hope some of you will visit Indonesia someday. So, Indonesia is a Muslim country, but still a lot of Vedic culture is there, and some old temples, and people are very fond of Ramayana and Mahabharata, yeah. Especially in the form of shadow puppet performances. People will sit the whole night watching this. Many Indians also in Indonesia. Mataji and her husband, Prabhu Narasingha Swami, were there for many years. And we were very close that time. And so she asked me to come visit her. So this is the reason why we've come to Bangalore again. Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu, you have a question?
How you?
From reading Prabhupada's books. Same as most of you, the same as most of you. No, I got on the street, I got a book. I became interested in that book, and I went to see the devotees and they preached to me. Yeah. Most of us have come like this, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Actually, were there any oppositions because you were preaching in a Muslim country, were there any oppositions and how you?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Leaving
but
it.
not from the Muslims, from the Hindus. Yes. That is a long story. No, if you try to preach Krishna consciousness, don't be surprised if some people object. Yeah.
How did you keep up your stand?
Hmm?
How did you keep up your stand of Krishna consciousness?
Well, it's just by chanting, by carrying on our programs. If you can't preach openly, then you can do it quietly. No, Prabhupada used to say, in like a needle, out like a plow. In some parts of the world, devotees are forced to preach quietly. Yeah. Still, things are going on. Yeah, in different parts of the world. Well, practically all over the world, there's so many devotees. Thousands and thousands of devotees in different parts of the world carrying on Krishna consciousness. In India, it's not, Krishna consciousness is not unusual because actually part of your culture. But, other parts of the world, even places you would not expect, there are devotees. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Islam religion, it looks very contrary to the Vedic culture. So, is there any conflict between the Vedic culture and Islam?
Actually, there is, but I don't like to talk about this in a public lecture. Even in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you know, that time Bengal was under the Nawab Hussain Shah, who was a very cruel and ruthless king, and actually incarnation of Jarasandha. You can imagine. And the district magistrate in Nadia was Chand Kazi, Maulana Chand Kazi Sahib. He was also, and once again, it wasn't the Muslims who were complaining, it was the Hindus, the caste Brahmanas. And they were complaining that this Nimai Pandit is ruining our religion. So you should take action. So, you know, the Kazi, some of his men broke the mridanga. So then there was a big demonstration at night in front of the house of the Kazi. There was a discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Chand Kazi, and as a result of which Chand Kazi became a devotee. And he gave his instruction that my descendants should never disturb the Harinam Sankirtan. And the tomb of Chand Kazi is there in Mayapur, near the Jagannath temple. And that is a holy place for the Muslims and the Hindus. Two people will be looking after this day every day. And there's one donation box, which is orange for the Hindus, and one donation box in hundi for the Muslims, which is green. So this is a special place. And well, you know, I mean, basically all human beings are brothers. Yes, I've been all over the world. We're not that much different. The Muslims are also our brothers, and we should not should not be antagonistic, and they are also worshipping God in their own way. It's the same God. And, so I don't like to go into too many details because we are not expert in these matters. Yes. We know Bhagavad Gita, something in Bhagavatam. We are not expert in the matter of other religious scriptures, so we should not try to talk about these things. But all I can say, and I suggest to you, that do not be resentful or hateful towards people of other religions. They're worshipping God in their own way. Prabhupada, when he was in Kolkata, he was doing a small business, supporting his family. His neighbor was a Muslim, and Prabhupada used to buy distilled water from this man, because this man was having bottles of distilled water, which Prabhupada needed for his making medicines. And one day Prabhupada asked him, what is your purpose of life? And he said, I would like to build a mosque. And Prabhupada said, that's very nice. Prabhupada appreciated. So we should try to be like this, and many of these people are quite serious about their religion. Even I sometimes think, if we were as serious as they are about their religions, if we were that serious about our religion, perhaps we would be more spiritually advanced than we are. Yes. So they're also our brothers. So we should try to respect them. They're also spirit souls. Yeah. You know that the most popular Bhagavad Gita in the world now, the foreign language versions. You know? There's so many. We have like more than 80 or 100 languages. Bhagavad Gita, we have it in Indonesian, we have it even in Mandarin, Chinese, and so many, German, French, Italian. They all have Bhagavad Gita as it is. You know which is the most popular at the moment? Arabic. They're selling like anything. Yeah. So watch out, Prabhu. Yeah, watch out. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sri Jagannath Balaram Subhadra. Sri Gaunitai. Sri Gaurangi Mangal Ishwara ki jai.
Hari Hari.